We're going to turn now to our 2-year CBS News investigation into the problem of domestic violence in the military. Throughout the course of our reporting, we spoke with nearly 40 survivors who reported abuse and who told us the military failed to support and protect them. Tonight, we hear from one survivor who explains how the system for reporting these alleged crimes is broken. She says Air Force leaders, criminal investigators, and even the military's program created to help her all failed her.
Effectively, I had the American dream for the last 20 years.
When Emily Brearley was 24, she moved to the United States from England to continue her education. And in 2016, she began an intimate relationship with an Air Force officer.
I consider myself a very strong and put-together person, and I thought, well, if somebody shouts at me or says something horrible, I'll stick up for myself. But you don't. You actually feel sorry for them.
She says things only got worse.
So when the physical abuse came, the strangulation, the beating, I was actually relieved. It's very scary, and you run.
A commander became aware of the alleged abuse and reported it in 2018. Emily feels that report went nowhere. Last year, Emily again reported the continued violence to the Air Force. This time, she even wrote a letter to one of her partner's superiors.
I gave him a list of all the evidence. I sent him photographs of my bruises. I sent him recordings.
You wrote in that letter to the general that you feared for your life.
Absolutely. I still do. Doing this interview is very dangerous.
The Air Force's Office of Special Investigations looked into her allegations. Did the military take steps to keep you safe?
They did not. No. They promoted him.
Feeling stuck, Emily reached out to a local civilian resource for support. Do you think Emily's allegations were taken seriously by the military?
No. No.
Casey Simmons-Munyene was a victim specialist for the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department for 15 years.
Anyone that was worth their salt would know she was in danger.
While the military investigation continued, Emily also sought help from the Pentagon's Family Advocacy Program, which was designed to help victims of domestic abuse. She asked Casey to attend a program meeting with her. How did the program employees respond to some of the allegations that Emily made?
I think they ignored most of them. There was a lot of discussion about what the abuser did professionally and how good he was at it. There was more concern for his career and his status than for the victim.
Casey says she was stunned by what she heard.
They asked her, could she think back to favorable moments with the abuser? That's pretty much the worst thing you can ask someone who's experienced victimization. To remind them of the good times is not helpful.
After 3 months, Air Force criminal investigators finished their report. Based on the findings, the commander decided to take no action.
It was absolutely horrifying to see the lack of alignment with the evidence and the testimony I had given and what was stated in the report. It was a complete cover-up.
What was missing?
The third-party evidence of physical abuse, and my testimony had been falsified.
What did you think when you read that report?
I realized that this was just another tactic to victimize me and blame me for the crimes that had been committed against me.
Emily reached out to Air Force leaders and members of Congress about what she'd read. Without explanation, the Air Force reopened her case, appointing a new investigator who took into account all of Emily's evidence. She still hasn't been told the outcome of her case, but CBS News was able to obtain documents that show, instead of a court-martial, the alleged offender would receive verbal counseling. Do you feel like your allegations were taken seriously?
Of course not. My allegations are not taken seriously. Nobody's allegations are taken seriously.
Well, in response to our reporting, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin acknowledged in a lengthy written statement that you can read on our website that these crimes have potentially lethal consequences and that they endanger service members, their families, and America's readiness. He said the Pentagon isn't afraid to change what they do and how they prosecute and prevent these types of crimes. And tomorrow on both CBS Mornings and Evening News, our series continues as we speak with the people who have worked with dozens of survivors and call this problem a crisis.